Hidden Object Guru here, joined by...
The Unabridged Gamer, who has no idea what's coming and is slightly concerned.
He's watching the stream, so he's only going to find out what we're playing in a second. But we're going to be both... chatting about Star Wars, as we love, and checking out the Chronicles of Joseph of Egypt. That's right. It's
oh my gosh.
Not Hidden Object. It's a match 3 game about a certain
Out in the
Technicolor
desert, there was a
Dream
wise
Code
man
owner.
named Jacob.
He
lives
his
here with
face
his large
is so
family,
priceless. It's
including
sort of
many
like, yes, I am doing this Chippendales dance to get myself
One
through
day,
college. Yes,
Jacob's
yes,
11th
yes, sir.
son was born.
Oh,
The boy's name is
so
Joseph,
mean.
and he is a wonderful child,
Yeah,
easily
let's
loved
turn the
by
volume
all
way
who
down.
see
Oh, poor Joseph. You started out as such a friendly character, and then you enslaved all of your people.
him.
But, like, I understand why you did it, but you still kind of come across as a jerk. Am I too hard on Joseph? Maybe. But yeah, it's one of these hidden object. I keep saying hidden object. One of these match 3 games that HH Games puts out, where it both is a standard match 3 game, but it also tells a story in various cutscenes. And they've done a whole series about Bible stories.
Oh, that's good. And I don't just mean that simply from a biblical context. I mean just in terms of, it's good to see someone take Match 3 and do more of it, because, like, that's a super... I remember as a kid playing Match 3 games on, like, the Disney Channel website and everything, because, you know, that used to be a thing that kids would do, because not everybody just played Fortnite.
Of course, yeah. Now there's only one video game that anyone plays, which is a little weird, honestly. That the
That's
entire
still
world is
true.
just playing a single game. Like, it feels like dystopian sci-fi from my youth, where it's like there's just one activity that everyone on Earth is all doing. And I'm like, and as a child, I was always like, oh, that's ridiculous. People are so varied all over the world. That kind of monoculture isn't possible anymore. And now Fortnite proves that, yeah, 100% it is. You can live in a monoculture again. It's weird, right?
Oh, it is so friggin' weird. And depressing, and... For what it's worth, if you want to stop being depressed at the state of Fortnite,
Please.
if you actually... I will do you one extra since you're throwing a surprise.
Okay.
You can throw any Star Wars question at me that you're at all curious about, and I will answer to the best of my ability.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Okay, let me think. Okay, any Star Wars question?
Stage complete.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a fun one. It's more of a quiz. Because I saw a tweet of yours recently that interested me quite a bit. And I want to know, why is it that you think that the new TV show is going to disrespect the continuity of Mandalorians?
Oh, they already have. They've already done so. This is something I was actually going to be saving for our discussions, but if you want to hear it now, I can go into it now.
I want to hear a bit of it now. I mean, obviously,
I've
we'll
already
talk about
explained
more
it to
in Clone
Nelson to the point that he was like, wow, that is kind of horrifying. And the thing is, I'm not alone in this. There is... Okay, so, story time, kids. Way back, there was the Republic Commando game, and it was going to immediately get a sequel, but it got canceled. But the thing is, while that got canceled, another thing was greenlit. Karen Travis, a British author who actually served in the British Navy for a little while, I think it was some sort of scout boat or something like that. And so she actually has some understanding of military terminology and how things work in naval warfare. And they hire her on. She's done a lot of license work. She's actually basically the grandmother, godfather, whatever you want to call it, of the Gears of War lore. She wrote all the lore and Gears 3.
Wow.
And the thing is, part of the reason that happened is because of what happened to her in the process of writing for Star Wars.
Please.
So, she starts writing the Republic Commando novels, and at this point we had some Mandalorian War from BioWare in that, but there was a bunch of contradicting stuff, like Hayden Blackman did a thing for the Boba Fett, for the Jango Fett game, rather, that, like, next to no one else.
Bounty Hunter, yes.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
it's called.
The tie-in comic he wrote for it kind of missed a lot of what people, you know, had written for Mandalorians.
Oh.
So Travis was basically in here to not only clean this up, but she was basically given a wholesale rule to do whatever she wanted with them. She has written a dictionary. That's where, like, you saw the tweet and you saw me actually writing. That is actual Mandoa. There is an online dictionary that you can translate your words to.
Okay.
So, like, they were her babies. She worked everything she could into making it
Before you continue, we have a statement and a question. Apparently, they added the Infinity Blade sword to Fortnite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad. And, Unabridged, do you have 3 sentences you can tell us on the theory that Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord? Okay. That's a no. He doesn't want to weigh in on that one.
I have had friends who really care about it. For me, that's just
one of the silliest theories possible.
There's actually, there is some stuff that makes you go, okay, you know what? Yeah, if you want to think that, that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. Like, even Robot Chicken got in on it.
Well, I thought Robot Chicken was where it started.
I can't tell for certain if they were or somewhere else, or if it was film theory or something, but, I can at least kind of see, there were a few Sith Lords who, played the idiot. So, that's, it's possible, but that's not really been ever my major focus. Gungans in general were never a thing that I focused on personally.
Right.
That said, going back to Mandalore, okay, so as we've established, Karen Traviss, she's creating all of this lore, and the thing is, she injected some cultural inspirations that weren't of just generic white people.
Nice.
In fact, it's safe to say that she's the primary reason a lot of Maori culture and other sorts of cultures like that, and Inuit culture got incorporated into how Mandalorians work. Mandalorians, they don't really actually like the Force. They believe in a soul, like an actual human soul that everybody has, except it's not just humans. Because here's the thing, Mandalorians weren't always primarily human. They were actually started out as the Tong, who were this big, badass race with dreadlocks and everything, and they passed on their culture because they were dying out, literally as a species. They were going extinct. So during the time of the Old Republic, when, Revan and Malak are running around, they passed on their traditions through the Neo-Crusaders, and that's how you end up with people like Boba Fett.
Oh, who is genetically human, but part of the Mandalorian culture.
Exactly. Mandalorians became a culture of embracing people. They ended up becoming very Mongolian, and it's there's so many different cultures getting tied into this that it's got so many different layers of depth going on, and it's fantastic. And it's a distinct and interesting universe.
Yeah, it's something that people haven't necessarily seen before either.
It's something completely brand new, and it also presented a faction who could freaking fight Jedi. This was a thing that some of the fanboys didn't like, but one of the things Travis set out to do was to create a culture that could genuinely rival the Jedi, because you can't just tell me that the Jedi and the Sith are the only factions who can actually stand their ground.
There are other martial experts out there that come from a completely different tradition.
Exactly. That's why Mandalorians had Beskar, which is one of the things that they completely missed with the Clone Wars. With the Clone Wars, they're like, oh, they have the Darksaber, which is a lightsaber, but dark. It literally is black with white edges.
We got another question. Has anyone read the Darth Vader versus Darth Maul comic book? I haven't.
I have. It's nice, but it's also kind of just sort of... It's there. I actually prefer the old ObiWan versus Maul fight that was semi-canon for the longest time, because it's a lot more interesting than what Rebels did. I understand the argument for thematically the Rebels had a lot more emotion to it, but there was this comic Star Wars Visionaries that was all sorts of concept artists just being allowed to do their own little anthology, and the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul is some of the most metal shit you will ever see in Star Wars. There's actually horns being cut off and everything. Wow. It was brutal in the best way possible.
That sounds
and for
amazing.
the longest time, it was semi-treated as canon. Nobody wanted to say that it didn't happen until... Well, then they just brought Darth Maul back, and then every single bit of that got thrown out the window. This is a thing that kind of happened. Understand, from Attack of the Clones release to 2006, there was what was called the Clone Wars Project, which is what Republic Commando, Karen Traviss' series, was part of. It was this effort to create an entire interconnected unity between every single project. Everything was cross-referenced. A lot like what Disney is claiming that they're doing right now, but they actually were doing it, and everything interconnected. you hear Barriss Offee being referenced in this thing? Well, yes, and here she is in the MedStar novels actually doing aid missions with various clones and technician personnel.
How
And
neat.
yeah, there's a lot of interplay. Like the micro series that I sent you, yeah, that is like meant to be what was going on with Anakin and ObiWan. For a while, even the CGI TV show wasn't going to touch upon them. They was just going to be, their story is told.
Yeah,
We're gonna
that's
do
what
something
the
else.
miniseries was for.
Yeah, except George Lucas changed his mind.
He does that a lot. For example,
Yeah.
and this is just a fun fact. This is a true fact if you didn't know this about George Lucas. Back in the mid-2000s, he's after Revenge of the Sith, he's like, TV's getting big. People love this Deadwood, this HBO. There should be a really great, like Emmy-worthy, award-winning Star Wars TV show. I'm gonna hire 14 really talented writers, like famous TV writers, and I'm gonna have them craft a giant interconnected Star Wars world for an hour-long drama show. And it's gonna run, and we're gonna script it all out. It's gonna be 5 seasons, 13 episodes a season, completely pre-planned. And he had them write all 65 episodes, and then he just never made it.
Yep.
That's a real thing George Lucas did. He fully did all of the pre-production. Star Wars 1313 was going to tie into it. He did all of the pre-production.
1313, he actually screwed that one up, for the record.
he did.
He
absolutely
completely changed the course. It was going to be an original character and everything, and it's like, no, I want it to be Boba Fett.
Yeah, no, he did. But that's where he was going to... I think part of his reasoning of that was he wanted to tie in the TV show to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. It should have just been an original character. People love Boba Fett, don't get me wrong, but you're right. It should have just been an original character. But what interested me was just the fact that it's like he had such a huge problem with just pulling the trigger on things and just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
And there will never be a better example of that than the giant budget, fully thought out Star Wars TV show that he just didn't bother making. But anyway, is Unabridged looking forward to the new Star Wars movie? Ooh, that's a good question. We're gonna have to have a longer conversation about that later.
No, it's kind of like I don't know what to say because like my big takeaway from the trailer was okay, so they're remaking Dark Empire and that's some really pretty music.
Oh, I'm just not watching the trailer. I want to go in surprised, and the last trailer already gave away too much for me. So while the whole internet this week watched the new trailer, I'm like, nope, I can wait. I'm a nerd. I'm ridiculous that way.
And for me, it's kind of ironic because like I love Star Wars so much, but I have grown to just appreciate the tertiary stuff so much more than just
the big canon stuff. Yeah.
So as a result, it's not nearly as like, ooh, I'm shaking in my boots like so many people are. Because like I have so many friends on Twitter who are freaking out. Whereas my biggest response is, I love this music. Can I just get this music without the trailer? Because I would love to just listen to this music on loop.
Nice. Well, I'm sure you're going to be able to. That's the thing.
I have no doubt.
In case you're wondering what to get Unabridged for Christmas, the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker soundtrack, apparently.
At least the trailer music, man.
The trailer music's going to be in there, I hope. But anyway, more importantly, you were telling us about the Darksaber.
Yeah,
That was a terrible idea.
Yes, because literally it just comes out of nowhere. It's never been established in any other part of the continuity. Because the thing is, with the Clone Wars, they were given the canon. There was multiple tiers of canon status George set up,
right,
so that he could still do what he wanted. Well, he gave them essentially his tier, which meant that whenever the Clone Wars wanted to do anything, they could overwrite literally sometimes decades worth of establishment. Yeah.
That's a lot of trust.
This was their first time. This was like Dave Filoni's third project, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, he'd worked on the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender for some storyboards and for some directing, and this was like, right out of the gate, he gets handed one of the biggest properties ever. And yeah, but more on that later. But the thing is, the Darksaber was one of many things that just, because, like I said, Mandalorians, this very deep culture, all sorts of stuff going on, all sorts of unique things, because with their armor being their big means of being able to counteract the Jedi, it also gave it cultural significance. The paint colors actually mean things. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. Yeah, none of that's canon anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. This is why when people are like, "Oh no, Legends was just bunk," it's like, no, the '90s stuff was bunk. A lot of the '90s stuff sucked. Everybody knows that. That is just it. It was the '90s. Whereas for the Clone Wars project, a lot of the things that people celebrate about Star Wars: The Clone Wars, yeah, they already did that. Like seriously, I could write a list. I have written lists sometimes when people have been like, "Okay, no, really, write me a list." It's like, here are all of the things that someone else wrote that this show gets credit for.
Wow.
And in the case of the Mandalorians, remember, they're this hybrid combination of Inuit, Maori, Mongols. What did Star Wars: The Clone Wars do with them? They're pale, white, blonde Swedes.
That's really upsetting.
Completely not anywhere near them. Also, for some reason, now the Mandalorians want to become pacifists. They want to grow past their nature as warriors. And only the bad Mandalorians want to still, actually wear the armor or be in any way resembling a Mandalorian.
Oh wow, that is quite a turn. Horror King, I don't recommend anyone do this, but this is a thing I actually do in theaters. I will just walk out of a movie theater, like I will get my seat, I will get myself situated, then I'm like, alright, well I'm gonna go get some snacks once the trailers start, just so I don't have to see any trailers. It's great, because you can go into movies not knowing the entire movie, which is really hard to do these days.
Yeah, it is. But
I know, I'm the only person I know who does this, but I got to see, what do you call it? For years, I completely gave up watching trailers, and I got to see a lot of movies for the first time. They weren't all great, but I did have, the experience of having no idea what a movie was about before walking in. Of course, then you have to decide a movie based on writer, director, star, things like that, or general premise if someone describes it to you. So that's a little harder to do, but there you go.
Yeah, but to round things out, it's just that's the sort of thing that happens in general with Star Wars: The Clone Wars, because I understand when people are like, there's some really pretty cinematography, and yes, the Umbara arc is really nicely done, but not only do a lot of the episodes have some really hokey logic, like the Wrong Jedi and the whole bit there with the original series finale before they got up on a season, so many leaps in logic. But
Really?
Regardless, oh yes, I remember explaining it to the player in my role-playing campaign, actually. I'm explaining it to her, and she's like, this is what they actually wrote. This is what they went. Okay, we're just gonna pretend that something logical happened. And I'm like, yep, that's how I go about it. It just, but yeah, Mandalore got such a raw deal. And the thing is, everybody's like, oh, I'm so in love with Mandalorians, and it's like, yeah, you're not experiencing Mandalorian.
What do you think the take on the new TV show is going to be on those characters and that?
Oh, I expect it to have next to nothing to do with the upside is Jon Favreau is in charge of it, and he apparently did actually research the Mandalorians when he got cast as one of the characters in that arc. He played, I kid you not, this is his name, Pre Vizsla. Yes, they named the guy Pre Viz.
That's right. Just little joke for the people working in the effects house.
It's like, okay. All right. I mean, Vizsla did exist already as a name. It was in a few other things, but yeah, no. There was
much.
Yeah, I think the Vizsla that Jango Fett went up against was Tar Vizsla or something like that. It was
okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a villain name, and it was done up as a Western style story, so that fits.
But Vizsla, come on.
Yeah, it was a thing. That's the easiest way to describe it all. Is it was a thing. But
It does make me sad.
I really, at this point, I've just tried to not care as much. That's also part of the reason why the trailer doesn't have me going as much. It's it's a lot easier to engage with this new timeline if I don't care, because the second that I do, it immediately it's all of these things that they did that are celebrated, and it's not really. This it's not bad. But
so much baby was thrown out with the bathwater.
Exactly. Whenever they would do something unique, like the Umbaran arc that I mentioned, that one is really well done. It's completely original. They have Dave Fennoy playing the bad guy, and he does a masterful job of it. It's I can go for that. I'm
Right.
perfectly fine with that. But whenever they took someone else's work, they tended to dumb it down for a kiddier approach, which was weird. Especially this one called the Blue Shadow Virus, which you'll see. And, like, understand, when it happened in the Republic comics, it was a tribute to Vietnam.
Stage complete.
Whoa.
Yeah, they somehow took an arc that was about Vietnam where a poison gets released on Naboo's moon and made it in the kiddiest season of Star Wars The Clone Wars.
Wow, we're right on the same page working about trailers. If I watch a trailer, it's generally after I've seen the movie, just because I'm interested to see sometimes when I see a movie. I normally don't watch them at all. Every now and then, I'm interested to see how they sold a movie.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Trailer that's just good enough on its own. Like,
Yeah,
they're
and that
just...
can happen.
It's beautiful when they do achieve that.
So here's my question for you. How do you feel about, I mean, you say about the whitewashing of Mandalorians troubled you in addition to everything else. How do you feel about where they've gone with the casting then for this one?
I really I want to believe that something good is going to come of it, but also there's one really specific thing that stands out to me in terms of, like, how they're going to handle this and everything is, like, it's not that there's going to be multiple Mandalorians, it's literally just, like, there's a Lego set with the characters and everything, and he is just cited as the Mandalorian. So I'm not expecting to see, like, a deepening of the
Stuff about their
culture.
culture. Gotcha.
It's more likely just to be he is the Mandalorian because we apparently can't bring Boba Fett back from the dead in this timeline.
Yeah.
so-
Mandalore's out there. No one knows what's going on with it, and he's like the one Mandalorian who's out there being a bounty hunter and making a mess of things. Because
Yeah, basically. Plus, oh, and that reminds me, the one other thing I forgot to mention is, okay, understand, Mandalore in the original timeline was like this really neat jungle world with, like, unique biomes and everything, okay? And everybody's just, they're actually living very small scale. A lot of people still stick to small scale villages because that's just how they like it. They like to live in clans and be nomadic because they have respect for nature and everything. It makes sense given all the inspirations. In Star Wars The Clone Wars, the entire planet is irradiated because apparently the Republic nuked the entire planet.
Well, that's disappointing.
Every time Rebels or Clone Wars has to go to Mandalore, they either have to go to one of the many conveniently added moons, or they have literally nothing but flat wastelands. Like
Oh.
literally nothing but flat wastelands. And I'm like, how could you as a writer look at that and go, this is the most potential we could have with an environment? Because, like, if they had somewhere to go with it, once again, I'd be fine with it. It's not necessarily change that I'm
Once
against.
again, it's a generic post-apocalyptic Mad Max wasteland every time.
Exactly.
As if Star Wars needed more desert wasteland planets.
Exactly. It's not like we're lacking for them. My goodness. And, I mean, I do appreciate some things that they brought into the full-on canon, like Dathomir is now a full-on thing, though they also killed them off. That is another thing that Disney loves to do, is they love to kill pretty much anything they introduce. Like, oh sure, the Night Sisters existed, and now almost all of them are already dead. I mean, even sometimes when they bring in their own stuff, like their blend of the Inquisition in Rebels, and it's like, 2 seasons in, yep, they don't matter anymore.
That is disappointing.
It's
And
just...
I look forward to finding out more about this as I start watching the Clone Wars show
I'm
with
this
you
is, like,
on an upcoming series of videos here on the channel. But for now, our final
I'm
thoughts
sorry, I
are...
realize I rambled a lot.
Totally fine. That's what you're here to do. You're here to ramble about Star Wars. That's why we brought you. But so you never have to apologize for rambling about Star Wars. But for now, I'm just going to encourage everybody to check out Clone Wars along with us to get prepped. We're going to be starting our conversations about Clone Wars with the Gennady Tarkovsky, the Samurai Jack guy, Star Wars miniseries, which is a feature film length at 2 hours long. Because it's, 12 episodes, 10 minutes long each or something?
The second season they got to do 10 minutes. The first one they only got to do 5, which, no, by the way, not a lot of people realized at the time. I do want to just add that little context, because me as a kid, my dad was recording it on VHS for me. Yeah, remember VHS? Remember when that was a thing? And he's like, I watched the first 5 minutes, and then it just goes to commercial, and I'm like, but where's the rest? And he's like, that was all what they played. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, because apparently he did make it like it was a movie and then just cut it into pieces, right?
Yeah, that is something that you'll also see when you're watching, is like, and anyone else who's watching it, there are a few ones where it's like, okay, this was a filler episode that like is showing what else is happening in the galaxy. This isn't actually moving the main plot forward. It's really nice stuff. It's beautiful animation, but the main plot becomes a lot more concrete in the second season. The second season is done like a movie. It is tight.
Okay.
It is well paced and done.
Luckily, it is all available on YouTube right now, the Star Wars Clone Wars. So you're going to be able to watch that and get us and get up to speed with us, where I think we can all have a good time watching and talking about that together. But for
Indeed.
now, I've been the Hidden Object Guru. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. If you had a good time and you'd like to see more, there's buttons for that coming up. Unabridged, is there stuff you would like people to check out?
You can find me on The Escapist at Second Look and in the review section getting hate mail, and also at UnabridgedGamer on YouTube and Twitter, where I'm talking about the greatest games that you've never heard of. And, well, actually, that's basically what Second Look is as well. I talk about a lot of games nobody ever talks about.
Like Splatterhouse. But
Yes!
this isn't that video. This is a different video.
Yes.
We will see you back here for more, but until then, I'm going to say au revoir.
G'day, 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 g'day.